think the whole economy is just fucking screwed. I don't know. Is that denial? Is that shock? Is that testing? Is that acceptance? I'm not sure what level of grief that is, because there's so few definitive levels of information, right? This is like a day-to-day update and continually changing our expectations of what a new world is going to look like.
And I know people on other levels are getting hurt, but I don't think anybody's getting hurt like the service sector. I know most people think we're a bunch of rich people getting rich on restaurants, but they're finding out real quick that that's not the case.
I'm feeling tired, sad, anxious.
Somber.
Overwhelmed.
Pretty sad, pretty raw.
Angry, hopeful.
I feel bipolar. Like one minute I'm like trying to be positive, like we're in this together. And then the next minute I'm crying.
You know, I'm feeling like I don't know what time it is and what day it is.
Not quite sure where my place is right now, and I'm really scared. The way it went down, it was almost surreal. And that Sunday came, and it was bright, and it was sunny out, and it was like almost optimistic. And then came the announcement we were all getting closed down.
Dr. Acton will be signing an order that all bars in the state and all restaurants will close at 9 o'clock tonight. How long this order will be in effect, we don't frankly know.
And the shock that rippled through the restaurant at that point was palpable. You know, people huddled around phones, listening to the news conference, knowing that this meant they weren't going to be working. This meant, you know, that what we did for a living wasn't going to be able to happen.
I processed the reality of having to cease operations from Saturday to Sunday evening. And Sunday evening is when I wrote the most jacked up to-do list of my life, starting with lay off all employees.
On that Sunday, we decided to close after brunch. To gather the employees together that day was really hard because we were closing a business. Who knows if we will reopen? That was the scariest thing. And I think for the employees, there was a lot of emotion. I don't show a lot of emotion, but it was very emotional for me to even talk in front of my staff.
I never want to have to look at a bunch of employees and know they have no options ever again. And that there's nothing I can really offer them to get them through this beyond get them their last paychecks as they went out the door.
I'm kind of kicking myself because I really had no idea what we were going to be up against. I felt like I had a very strong business, and this just blindsided, I feel like, especially the restaurant industry.
I can't believe I invested 24 years of my life. It's going to make me cry into a business that can just disappear like that.
Their world was changed overnight to something that they had no control over, and anything that it wasn't because they did something, right? It's crazy to think that you can shut down an entire industry and lay off thousands and thousands of people. Is it needed? 100%, but it's just crazy that it came to that.
Carry out food is still allowed and certainly encouraged. We have some great restaurants.
2 days after the governor put the notice out that we had to do takeout only, I had to close my second location, and we were losing money, and I just shut it down because I knew I couldn't survive. I wasn't going to be able to pay my rent. I put all of those employees on unemployment. I felt terrible about it, but I had to do it because I need to keep this business, and I want to reopen. I want to rebuild.
For sure, the social distancing piece was a big factor in our decision to not do carry out or delivery. It's really hard to have a kitchen open. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I had my chef team working together in a kitchen, which by definition, you're not 6 feet apart almost ever, I wouldn't be able to ensure their safety. That was heartbreaking. The best choice for our team and to make sure they all had jobs to come back to was to furlough them all.
We're all operating with a sense of hope that as soon as events stop canceling and the government lifts the order, we can go back to work. Like, we can cater an event for 200 people in 5 days if we were allowed. But the reality of it is that when this relinquishes its grip biologically on the human race, the economic factors will unveil themselves as possibly worse. People aren't going to be spending the way they were. People aren't going to be gathering the way they were.
If everything shuts down the way it has and it continues past 60 days, I think that there's a massive shakeout in the restaurant industry because people just can't survive that.
There's really no playbook for how to take a company from 100 to 0 in a week. My reality will change. My purpose will stay the same, but the way that I execute that purpose will definitely shift.
If 40% of these restaurants go away, these people have to reinvent themselves. So what does that reinvention look like if they want to stay in the food? Is it creating of their own products? Is it farming? Is it helping out with food production and food service? I think people are going to really begin thinking about where their food comes from. People are realizing now what an ecosystem, what a supply chain looks around food, and local food, I think, will benefit from that. People aren't going to stop eating. So food in that sense is almost recession-proof. I think it's the time that we begin educating around, where is that food coming from and how do we make that food source more sustainable and how do we make sure that shelves aren't bare.
My passion is driven from that love that I have for food and that I really don't ever see doing anything else except working with food.
My hope is that the importance of quality time spent over rush and quantity over quality, I hope that goes away. And I hope that a revitalization of local food systems becomes more appreciated.
I have to think that we're all going to come out of this stronger. We're going to be smarter about our businesses.
I hope we're all smart enough to learn from our experience here as to not taking things for granted and not just thinking, there's always something else.
Connection to me is so important as we look at our future business because we are social distancing or physically distancing ourselves from people. And I think when we reopen and when we think of our future and our business, I think the connection to our guest is super important. And it's through our food, it's through connecting with our farmers.
That's why I love my business so much. There's just so many amazing people who really are grateful and rely on us for that social interaction and for that connection at our shop, which is so cool.
We've got to get back involved with the community if we have any hope of moving forward.
I do think when this is all said and done, we're going to get back to having a good time again. One thing that gives me hope every time? Have 2 of these, you'll be feeling just fine.